freedom seekers and a citizen of St. Catharines. I'm here to request an amendment to the terms of reference for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. Racism is a problem in Niagara, and it is an issue that has long been ignored, except by those experiencing it. We have a predominantly white regional council and Planning and Economic Development Committee, and through your actions, or rather inaction, it appears this committee is either completely unaware or does not care. Just because you do not experience racism that is going on in our region does not mean that it does not exist. In fact, for the very reason that you do not experience racism or feel its impacts, we urge you to have an anti-racism town hall so that you can gain an understanding of the ways in which our community members are being negatively impacted by racism that they experience within the Niagara region. Members of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee would like to advise the region to pursue an anti-racism town hall and advise on other regional issues relating to DEI, but they've not been allowed to due to the committee's terms of reference, which restricts the committee to only providing advice on activities internal to Region of Niagara matters, not what's happening in the community. It is problematic that the DEI Advisory Committee is only permitted to advise on issues when called upon, rather than being able to proactively identify and address issues that they have identified. When the DEI Advisory Committee can only address issues that are brought to their attention by others, they are limited to a reactive approach. This means they miss opportunities to identify and address systemic issues before they escalate to negatively impact the community. An effective DEI Advisory Committee should be empowered to proactively address issues and assess practices, policies, and culture through a diversity and equity lens. By proactively identifying and addressing issues, they can contribute to continuous improvement and foster a more inclusive Niagara region. If the DEI Advisory Committee is not empowered to address issues, it will continue to cause skepticism among community members and other stakeholders about the committee's effectiveness and commitment to promoting diversity, inclusion, and equity. Without the ability to bring up issues they have identified, this DEI Advisory Committee will continue to struggle to make meaningful impact on systemic inequalities within our region. Currently, the effectiveness of the DEI Advisory Committee is being hampered by bureaucratic barriers and a seeming reluctance to challenge the status quo. The committee's terms of reference restrict the ability of the DEI Advisory Committee to advise the region to pursue an anti-racism town hall and dramatically limits the scope of their work. Additionally, it results in the committee being required to focus only on issues that are immediately apparent to the predominantly white Planning and Economic Development Committee, rather than allowing the DEI Advisory Committee to discuss and advise the PEDC on important community DEI issues that contribute to systemic inequalities such as racism. Identifying DEI initiatives requires input from people with diverse backgrounds and experiences to effectively address the needs of racialized communities within the region. Otherwise, we risk overlooking the important perspectives and issues that affect underrepresented groups. To be clear, this is not a request that the DEI Committee should be allowed to bring the Planning and Economic Development Committee's attention to fights between neighbors. The insinuation of that is both ridiculous and offensive. What we are requesting is that the PEDC amend the DEI's terms of commitment or committee's terms of reference to allow them to address systemic and strategic issues of racism. Empowering the DEI Advisory Committee to proactively identify and address issues is essential for fostering a culture of inclusion, equity, and anti-racism within our region. By giving the committee the autonomy and the authority to bring up issues they have identified, this Planning and Economic Development Committee can leverage the expertise and insights of committee members who drive positive change and create a more, this Planning and Economic Development Committee can leverage the expertise and insights of the committee members to drive positive change and create a more inclusive Niagara. Thank you very much for your time.